My name is Manvi Srivastav, and I am a sophomore in college at the University of Houston. Hope Squad to me, it's just a way to end the stigma around any sort of mental health issues. Because I'm actually originally from Illinois, and my Illinois school didn't have a Hope Squad, and so mental health was heavily stigmatized. Like, no one talked about it, and I grew up in an Indian family, and we don't really talk, like in Indian households, you don't really talk about depression or anxiety, and so I never talked about that growing up for like the first 11 years of my life. And then I came to Texas around my 6th grade year, and we had a Hope Squad, and more people were just open to talk about what they're going through, what they're struggling with, and it was like not uncomfortable. They're just really willing to talk about how they're feeling and what they're doing to cope. And it's a really nice environment to be in, because the stigma around mental health, people just don't understand that it is also a biological component that is messing with your brain. It is as important as physical health, and that stigma really needs to go away, because then people are not going to get the treatment that they need, because it is a legitimate problem, a legitimate issue. And I think Hope Squad, just having a Hope Squad, really reduces that stigma overall, because people are so much more open just having it there, the presence of the Hope Squad.
It used to be hidden. I mean, it was almost a source of embarrassment.
100%.
I'm feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
But with Hope Squad, what does it do?
It just, I think just knowing that you have a safe place to talk about it, and it is okay to talk about it, because like not having it, you don't really know if it's okay to talk about it. You know, especially like in a lot of minority households, you know, it's very stigmatized, and just knowing that it's okay, that you can talk about it, it's okay to not be okay. It's just the whole presence can very much change an environment really quickly. So in high school, I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and one of them was marching band. And so when I was in marching band, in Texas, it's very rigorous. The standard is really high, and that really takes a toll on a lot of people's mental health. There's one student in particular who was already going through things prior to when she got into high school, and she was struggling to the point where she wouldn't be at rehearsals or schools, and the band director didn't know how to deal with it. His first response would be, go to the counselor and talk. But it's easier to talk to someone your age than an adult that has a legal obligation to tell higher authority. That's scary. That's really scary. And it makes sense. Like, you know, they're mandatory reporters. But I'm also a mandatory reporter, obviously, but I'm the same age. I'm going through the same thing, not the same things, but I'm going through similar things as they are. And having someone to talk to, and me just being there for her, allowed her to understand how she's feeling, and allowed her to cope in ways that she hasn't thought about coping before, and reduce the amount of unhealthy coping mechanisms.
I mean, did you see once you...
100%. She felt pressure to do so many things in high school because she had to live up to her sisters. But then she started really thinking of herself more. She started putting herself before others, because very selfless person, very sweet girl, but she would prioritize other people over herself. And when I tell her, like, you should really think, if it bothers you, it's valid. If this hurts you, don't think about how they're going to take it if you tell them, you know, because it hurt you. So she ended up quitting band and doing things that she actually enjoyed, because she wants to put herself first for once, rather than prioritize other people her entire life. Hope Squads, you don't know how different the environment is until you have been in an environment without a Hope Squad and with a Hope Squad. The difference in comfortability and talking about your mental health and what you're going through is so drastic. Like my prior story about my Illinois school and my school in Texas with the Hope Squad, people are just more open. They're more comfortable talking about their feelings, which is a very important thing if you want to heal, because bottling everything in is not healthy. And the presence of a Hope Squad just allows the students to know that there are people there for you. It is okay to talk about your feelings and stuff. And that presence is like, even if they don't do anything, which they will obviously, but if they don't do anything, just the presence of the Hope Squad helps students know that it's okay to talk about their feelings, and mental health is valid. But I would say that it's definitely more beneficial than detrimental.
If you want,
The stigma around mental health is very detrimental to so many individuals in the U.S. And I don't think people understand how bad the stigma is until they have a loved one or someone they're friends with get affected by that, not taking their mental health seriously. But Hope Squad makes sure that people understand the severity of mental health and give adequate resources so that people feel less alone and that people feel like it's okay to reach out for help.
I've been a part of Hope Squad for 2 years, and what drew me to Hope Squad was my advisor. She is very big on mental health, and I had done one of her previous clubs called Grow Club, which is a club where we do gardening through nature and spread the word of mental health through nature. And after doing that, and she offered Hope Squad, I saw it as a great opportunity to spread the message even more.
when you first,
I personally didn't have any hesitation because I'm pretty passionate about mental health, and when I saw the opportunity, I just kind of jumped at it.
so once you did dive into it, what is it that you found?
I found that it was a really great opportunity to learn. When I looked through the curriculum, I saw that it was way more advanced than the standard SOS, signs of suicide curriculum that we had been taught before, and I felt like it was way more in-depth and way more interactive in that peer-to-peer suicide prevention action.
Now the thing is,
At the end of the day, I feel like Hope Squad is about fostering connection in a community because when we hear about Hope Squad, of course we get that peer-to-peer suicide prevention, but we also want to focus on other groups that we're helping. For example, I have a lot of teachers who are older, and they always tell us that they wish that suicide prevention programs were implemented in school when they were younger and even when they became teachers at the beginning of their careers. So we get to see how even other individuals support us. I have personally seen a positive outcome when implementing the curriculum that we learned in Hope Squad. I helped a peer who was suffering from a couple mental health disorders, and he wasn't necessarily suicidal, but he was not mentally well, and I was able to refer him to the counselor, and the counselor got in touch with his parents and his personal therapist, and they were able to create an action plan for him to better interact at school. So I have seen Hope Squad really make a positive impact in students' lives.
for you, what's noticed?
I would say the sign that I initially noticed was just his behavior was very up and down. For example, for the first 5 minutes of the class, he may have been super excited, and then the next 5 minutes, it was just a downcline. And then I had noticed that pattern for about, I think, 3 or 4 class periods. And when I talked to him a little more, and I was like, hey, or is there a particular reason that your energy is kind of up and down? He said that he had suffered from, I believe, insomnia and one other mental health condition, and that he wasn't properly able to address it at the time. So that's why I went to the counselor, because I, as a student, have no idea how to address that as a counselor or a therapist would. So the counselor got in contact with his parents, and then I believe the counselor and his therapist and parents were able to make that action plan for him.
You know, how common?
When it comes to how common it is, it really depends on the point in time of the year. Like the very beginning of the year and the very end of the year seem to be when emotions are really heightened or really, like on a downward decline. For example, in May we have our testing season, and that's when people are very stressed, and they kind of look at these tests and these grades as their self-worth. So oftentimes when their grades or their performance isn't as good as they would like, that kind of puts people into a negative mindset, which of course can lead to which can lead to burnout or even depression and the feeling of isolation at times.
We've all felt that stuff. What are you telling me?
That one's a really hard one because depending on someone's circumstances, sometimes it feels like I'm not sure how to address it. For example, that student who suffered from insomnia and another health disorder, for him it's kind of a genetic thing. So when he told me about it, I gave him the advice of, well, maybe if you can't sleep because of your insomnia, you could try resting or meditating or something in that area. So it's really about looking for solutions rather than dwelling on the problem and knowing that even if they can't completely overcome that particular issue, that there are ways to kind of treat it and be able to live with it better.
So there is hope.
Yes, I agree. There is hope. It feels really good because, like, being able to help someone is probably something that I think really means a lot to anyone, just in a general sense, because as humans, we want nothing more than to interact with each other and see each other thrive. So being able to take someone from a place that's not the best and be able to help them improve in their day-to-day life not only feels like an accomplishment, but it really makes us feel human again, especially after a pandemic where we didn't really get to interact with each other.
How does it feel?
It feels amazing to be a part of Hope Squad and the National Council, and even my own Hope Squad in Coppell, at New Tech Coppell High School. It's really amazing because we get to see other people grow. I go to a really small school, and sometimes people do feel isolated because they may not have a friend group that they can rely on or individuals. But because we go to such a small school, we're able to notice signs and we're able to pick out who those people are and interact with them and make them feel more connected through Hope Squad activities or just those peer-to-peer conversations.
So
I would tell anyone who is in a position where they can start out Hope Squad to just try to do it and maybe see if they can find like a co-advisor or something like that, because Hope Squad is probably one of the most rewarding things that anyone can do in their life. I've personally been a part of groups where we've raised a lot of money, we've done all these things, but it's that true human connection that is really unique to Hope Squad that truly makes it all worth it. So I would tell any administrator that is potentially not looking to start a Hope Squad to just do it. What I see at school when it comes to technology interfering with human connection, it is really difficult because sometimes it's hard to pick out, is this student just a more introverted person who struggles to talk to people, or is this person someone who is in a depression, not in a great mental state? It's really hard to distinguish the two, which is why at the end of the day, just talking to them, trying to foster a connection, or at least just have the conversation once to see what they're like, is worth it in the end, even if it is uncomfortable to do. And I would urge any student who does feel like they're a little socially awkward or maybe not looking to talk to people to at least try it once, or if someone is trying to talk to you, to just kind of go along with the conversation.
Right. If you tell me your name again and where you're going to school?
Yes. I'm Jasmine Williams. I have been in Hope Squad for 2 years. I've been a National Hope Squad member for 1 year, and I graduated from New Tech Coppell High School this May, and I will be going to UT Tyler.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So my name is Danielle Alvarado, and I'm a rising freshman at the University of Texas at Austin. I first found about Hope Squad at my school. We recently had just chartered it. We had to go to my advisor to help. Wait, can I restart that? It was recently chartered in my school for the first year. It wasn't really known, but then my second year, which was my sophomore year, I heard about it because once I got nominated, I got a pass from my counselor, and then we met in the cafeteria, and she was like, if you guys are here, you guys are you're peer selected by your peers to be a part of Hope Squad. And I was like, me, really? I didn't know people actually selected me to be part of Hope Squad, because my friend who was was the president, she was like, Danielle, 50 people nominated you, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was surprising. But then once I knew about what their mission was and what it actually meant to people, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to participate in this program.
I mean, seriously.
I see a lot. It's definitely a life-changing experience. I get to actually, since I was the president this past year, along with being on the National Council, so I was actually able to be very hands-on with the work that we were providing in our school. So it was nice to do the background stuff, but also able to make a tangible impact within my school, because people come up to us all the time and are like, oh, we love Hope Squad, or what you guys do is really amazing. And then we have had times where we had to interfere, and so that was really obviously I obviously don't know about some of those stuff because we keep it confidential, but with what I know and what I have interfered with, I know that we have saved many lives.
So that's the thing. I mean, from
What's that? For me, it was one of my closest friends. He actually came up to me and he was we had gotten really close, and he told me through message, oh, I'm thinking about going in my garage and ending my life. And at that point, I was like, are we joking or are we actually being serious? And then once I started realizing more how he was talking, I told him, I was like, I'm going to have to tell someone. And he told me, he's like, no, Danielle, please don't do that. And then I did end up telling my advisor, and then his mom obviously got involved. But I told him, I was like, he was obviously mad at me, but I remember one of the things that I told him was, I'd rather you be mad at me and still alive rather than me regret every decision that I've made and you not be here.
How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great because I know that because of what I was able to do, that he rethought that. And later, like 2 months, we didn't talk for 2 months, but then he texted me and was like, thank you so much, like, for doing that. Like, I know I was mad at you, but I'm thankful that you did step in and say something. Because he's like, it shows that you care. And I was like, I mean, of course I care, about so many other people still care about you too.
And that's the thing he was doing.
From my understanding, it was very much like he didn't. I think he felt very alone. He felt as if people were kind of not on his side. Whenever people were just. He felt like everyone was against him. But I had to like keep reminding him, like, oh, like no, like I care. I know your family cares, and you also have friends that care so much about you, and that the things that people say to you, it shouldn't really. Don't let it affect you too much because you have so much to live for. And like I was like, you're going to college next year. Like you have all these things lined up for you. Like don't throw it all away for.
What does your family think of your involvement with this?
They're very proud of my involvement with it, but at the same time, they kind of worry sometimes. Like, okay, like, are you okay? Is your mental health good? Because you can't. I think I heard someone say like you can't fill someone else's cup if your cup's not full. I talk about like my advisors. Like I'm really close to my two advisors, so I kind of just talk to them about it. Like they're always like, "Oh, how are you? Are you doing okay? Like I know you have a lot going on. Like is there anything you want to talk about?" And I'm like, if I do have something going on, I'm like, okay, like this is how I feel. I did talk to my advisor about it whenever everything happened. Like I did cry a little bit because I was like, I felt really bad that I lost a friend, but I was like, at least he's still here. And he's like, no, you're right. Like he's still here, and he might come back, and like I'm thankful that he did. So I feel like it was just the worrisome of what everyone usually thinks, like, oh, I'm going to lose my friend. But I was like, I think that's better than losing the person here.
Well, that's the thing. So, I mean,
I feel like if they're not properly, without a training, I feel like they would. I feel like if I wasn't in HopeSquad, if I wasn't taught what I was taught, I feel like a part of me would want to be like, no, but I feel like every person's different. So I feel like someone might not hide it. I think it just depends. It varies case by case.
all right. So let's say.
I mean, although you want, like, if they're really busy, they can share the ideas with their friends or even still share the idea with their teacher or counselor so they can start it or they can find people that are able to and have the time to start it. And at the same time, that student can still be a part of that organization no matter what. They don't have to, like, be there to be the creation or, like, the founder of the club in their school. I just feel like once they just make it known and show how important it is rather than, oh, let me just, like, try to do this all by myself. I feel like once they have a team with them, that they'll be able to create that.
Why is it important? Why is a HopeSquad important?
I believe HopeSquad is important is because I remember every single time we have we like do like little club events or club fairs. We're always like peer-to-peer is a mental health like awareness organization and like a peer-to-peer suicide prevention organization. I feel like once we say those words, people kind of realize like, oh, when I hear like peer-to-peer, it's like, oh, I can talk to other students. And I just think it's so important because we are saving lives. Although people might not think that, or people like sometimes like call us in our school like, oh, like HopeSquad, like that's like a joke, but then people don't really realize the lives that we're saving and the lives that we're able to help like keep because of what impact HopeSquad does.
So we're friends, we're acquaintances.
I would just be like, I would probably just go up to them and be like, hey, like, oh, like, how are you? I might not have introduced myself, but like, oh, like, I'm Danielle, like, oh, like, I would try to get to know them first rather than just deep dive, like, oh, are you gonna kill yourself?
Yeah.
Because I'd rather want to get to know them first, be like, oh, like, what do you have planned? Like, oh, that's so cool. And then I'd kind of be like, oh, like, how's everything been?
What does that provide?
I feel like it just allows them to know that somebody's there and that someone's in their corner.
What is, because a lot of times when you see people harm themselves, it's because they feel what?
That they have no one around, that they feel like lost and isolated.
And HopeSquad does what?
I feel like it does the opposite of that. It's HopeSquad. I feel like we create hope for people. We are able to, like, with all of our like events that we do or whatever like the mission is within HopeSquad, like we're able to be there and create hope for people that might have like lost a sense of that.
Is there anything, what do you want them to see?
That it's so important to advocate for mental health advocacy or just peer-to-peer suicide prevention because you never know what's going to happen. And like I feel like people should just be like very people don't know what they have until they lose it, and so it's very important that you just you live in you live in the moment, because you obviously never know if your friend or somebody in your family is going to commit, and it's just and it's also important just to advocate for it to your superintendents and to your higher ups, because although older people might not understand it because of the stigma that's been around, but I know kids nowadays, we understand what's going on and how important it is, and since we're the future leaders, that we should be able to speak about it and not create a stigma around it. So it should be normalized that we're able to talk about it and we're able to combat it.
Everybody feels that way sometimes. And you guys make sure it doesn't go too far.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I mean, I have had experience where we have lost someone. And I feel one thing to do is one thing I would say for advice is don't try to find all the missing pieces that you couldn't find, because I know I did that myself. I kind of looked back and was oh, what could I have done? Because after, I think it's cliche as it sounds, after it all happened, I definitely saw the signs. I now realized, oh, all the signs are prevalent, but at the same time, the person was really good at hiding their emotions or masking whatever they were feeling, that it was hard to see at the time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Saithi Babadi. I am a rising senior at Rock Hill High School. And what really drew me to Hope Squad is probably just the people that I knew in it. I knew a lot of, I had a couple friends maybe just telling me about, just hearing their conversations about the class and how they were learning a lot, and it was fun because they got to journal and they got to talk to people and meet new people. That was kind of what drew me, just those new connections that they were making with people that were so similar to them in the sense that they had the same values and same same goals in life. So that's mainly what drew me, I think, if we really straight bring it down to one thing.
Now, you were saying that when you heard about it, it was the nomination process. And what did you tell me about that little? You did what?
So for the nomination process, actually, I had no idea I was nominated till I got the email. So the way that it works at my school personally is during around, I want to say February, kind of later in the year, around April, the whole school gets an email, and in the email contains a Google form. And in that Google form, they get told, hey, if you guys know anybody in your life who, helps you in a way, is a great friend, is, the therapy friend is what we like to call it. Somebody who, is kind, is willing to, listen and help you, and kind of has those characteristics, please write them down on the Google form. And now that I'm an officer and I've gone through the process and I've been on the other side, now I understand that what they do is they sort through it. So they look at all the people who got nominated. It's this big spreadsheet. And based on that, from our knowledge of how well we know these students, or the counselor's knowledge or my advisor's knowledge of these students, we'll kind of sort through them, kind of weave through them. And that's exactly how I got sorted through. And then...
It seems so dry and complicated, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah, not at all.
Because they give you some training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And in that training, they introduce, terms like peer-to-peer and this and that, kind of dry psychological terms almost. But if you see me dovetail, let's say we're a mat together,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of know, and you see me going, all right, are you going to throw peer-to-peer psychological terms at me, or how are you gonna nudge me along to where I need to be?
That's actually a really good question. So when you do join the class, and the whole nomination process is leading up to joining the class and putting that as a part of your schedule. But when you do join the class, there's going to be a set curriculum, and within that curriculum, your advisor kind of spreads it out throughout the year, and every day might be a different topic. So for example, one day we might talk about sentence stems, of how to approach a kid who's going through this huge emotional distress. There's a lot of sentence stems of what to say, what not to say, because obviously you don't want to say, hey, I'm going to go tell somebody. You don't want to be straight up, because they're not going to tell you anything, especially if they want to be closed off to themselves. That's not going to help anybody. So we kind of learn those sentence stems and just how to approach them in the correct way without scaring them off.
Well, how do you have to approach it? What is it that you have to do?
It's mainly because obviously, like you said, peer to peer, that's a big thing. And the whole point of that is because the familiarity of the students, familiarity of maybe my age or my face, maybe they've seen me in the hallway, and just not being scared. That's the biggest thing, just not being scared of your peer. And with that, like how I'm talking right now, I just kind of talk like we're having a conversation, as if you're a friend that I've known for how many ever years. It's very laid back. Obviously, you are dealing with some pretty emotional topics and pretty hard topics to talk about. But with our training, we're trained to approach it in a way that's calm, approach it in a way that doesn't scare them off and make them want to keep even more locked down. That's the biggest thing.
A lot of times people.
Yeah, that can be a lot of factors, depending on the kid, because some kids might feel, oh, I don't have any friends, oh, I don't have anybody I can talk to, and some kids might just feel, I have friends, but they're not meant for this. Those friends are, let's go hang out, let's go do this, and it's not, they don't have those kind of friendships that they can sit down and talk. And a lot of kids will feel scared because they don't want to necessarily like break a friendship, if that makes sense, in a way that like breaks the friendship in the way that it's out of their comfort zone, out of that like bond's comfort zone, out of that relationship's comfort zone. So a lot of kids get scared in that way. And it's honestly a combination of things, whether they're dealing with things like, because obviously suicide, there can be so many different reasons. It can be home life, it can be just outside external factors, it can be internal factors, it can be a combination of things, and it kind of goes the same with why some students talk to others and why some students don't. Like a prime example could be how whenever I'm feeling stressed, the way I deal with it is talk to my parents, talk to my friends. But in contrast, my brother, when he is feeling down, he keeps a bottle inside. All he needs is some alone time in his room, and he'll keep it bottled in, and sometimes we just need that. And it's so different from person to person that what we're trained to do is kind of find that easing in point. Whether they want it, whether they're like my brother or like me, we want to find that middle ground just so we can keep them, because we never know what the extent to what they're feeling is. We don't want to, whether it's just a simple, I did bad on this test, and it's a simple just maybe one day sadness, or whether it's been something that's been going along for months or years or so. So we really want to just, the whole peer-to-peer process is finding that middle ground and learning how to find that middle ground in a way that makes them comfortable. Have I seen what?
Have you personally seen training you to see work? Kind of guide the kid to a safer place? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So back during my sophomore year, I was also, yeah.
All right. So have you personally seen the training work? Can you, no names, but can you
Yeah.
tell me what happened?
Yeah, so it was basically with one of my close friends at the time, and she had been going through a lot of just school stress and just everything. She was in sports as well, and all of that combined, family life, it was a lot of combination, and it really, dropped her down, and she was not doing well. She's a straight A student. She's one of the smartest people I know. And when I noticed that her grades started dropping and, her activity and her humor, what makes her her, was starting to, disappear. When I noticed that, I realized she has a lot in her mind right now, and all she needs is, it took a while, and the little nitty-gritty details kind of went, it took me maybe a week and a half to see what does she need, what's happening, just to notice, without really all of that happen, for me to notice, what she needs, I just kind of did it in the quiet. I just kind of observed her, because I don't want to, tell her straight up, oh, you look down, tell me what's happening, because that can always just scare somebody away, you never know. So I kind of just like even when we were just talking about normal school or anything, I would just kind of be like, so how was your day? I would kind of throw those in to kind of for that observation period. And then after that, when I realized she just has so much on her plate, she needs somebody to talk to right now, she needs a shoulder to lean on, is when I realized QPR, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a method that we learn in the class. It's question, persuade, and refer. So you kind of start with the sentence stems, persuading them to go with to somebody with more credentials and somebody who can truly help them in their struggles, and not just be a shoulder to lean on and really like execute the help or whatever they need. And the best way is kind of honestly, it's a mindset that we have to have ourselves. And I always kind of go with the quote, "You can't fill somebody else's cup if yours isn't already full." That's a big thing that I live by, because I like to not take all of what she's going, because if I try and take all of her emotions and put it on myself, that's not going to help anybody. So the best thing that we Hope Squad students can do is simply just listening, and listening to what they need, listening to their needs, and then acting on that, but to a certain extent, and knowing our limit. That's the biggest thing that we can do, knowing our limit, because if we try and, go all the way and be that person that they get referred to, that's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help whoever is going through the emotional distress. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help the adults who are concerned. So it's really just the students knowing their own limit, and knowing, and that limit kind of ends in that question, persuade, and refer. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like
So there's one more thing in my school.
one more thing in your school, because it is something, sadly, in today's day and age, from my experience, I've been in high school for 3 years. So from my experience in these 3 years, I've seen how much mental health struggles can affect your physical health and just you as a person, and your future. And with today's day and age, it's becoming more prominent than ever, sadly. Along with suicide rates, depression rates, anxiety rates, a lot of mental illnesses are coming to the light more than ever. And it's really, really important to, kind of just put light on that. And unlike some other clubs, maybe, for example, like HOSA, that's simply for building your future, building your academics, building your resume. While Hope Squad is, think of it as, you're not going to have a school without counselors, right? Hope Squad is just that. It's a branch of that. If not, honestly, I personally, in my opinion, I think every school, to their best extent, should have some sort of Hope Squad program, because in my head, it's literally just a branch of the counselors. It's an extendant of the counselors. It's a way for the counselors to connect with students, to understand what they're going through, and to help, overall, just help. And hopefully in the future, bring all of these rates down, all of the suicide rates, the depression rates. I think that's the best thing we can do right now, because rather than stopping or acting after we see the rates go up, we should try and prevent it. And I think Hope Squad and inflicting Hope Squad in schools is the best way to do that.
At its heart,
Hope Squad is, wait, what?
At its heart.
At its heart, Hope Squad is, to put it down to one word, Hope Squad is unity almost. Hope Squad in my head is a voice for students and the peers and those kids who are going through something. Hope Squad is a voice for the kids who feel unheard. Hope Squad is a voice for kids who feel that they aren't being listened to, that their problems are minuscule and they don't matter. To me, that's what Hope Squad is. And my goal with this program is to bring light to those kids, bring light to those who feel that their problems are going unheard and their struggles are not worth the fight and not worth an adult, or that fear of all of that. And through my culture, seeing the stigma around mental health, I think Hope Squad is meant to break that. So overall, it's meant for a voice. So yeah. at its heart, that's what I believe Hope Squad is.
That was beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful.
Is that
Thank
it?
you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
See, that's the thing. What drew you to it?
So my name is Reagan Griffith. I am a up-and-coming senior at Little Elm High School. For me, Hope Squad was introduced to me when I was in middle school, the concept of it, and it really resonated with me because it was a suicide prevention group, and a couple years prior to when I was introduced, my aunt had died by suicide, and she had started her mental health journey when she was in middle school. According to my grandparents and my mother, that's when she really struggled the most. And just thinking of, I wish somebody like what I do now was there for her when she was in middle, high school, and even into her adult life. So I do it in her name, and I do it for her to help prevent her story.
When somebody reaches out,
I feel like it just depends on the person, because I've seen people who can be surrounded by friends and family get depressed, and I've also seen people who has nobody get depressed. I just feel like everyone goes through their own struggles. They all deal with it differently, so it's hard to say why there's a certain reason, because at the end of the day, everyone is alone in their head, so you never really know what is someone going through. You only know what's going through your head. I feel like depression is very common. I feel like the mental illness itself is not that common, but everyone gets depressed at some point through their career, and it's just very common to see someone in middle school or high school a little sad or a little depressed. And I feel like it's valuable because even if someone is thinking about suicide or someone is just simply having a bad day, there's always a Hope Squad member who's there to walk them through anything, or just simply give them a hug and tell them have a great day.
how does that make a difference?
Sometimes the connection of a human can just bring positive aspects. Sometimes people just want someone to smile at them, and it can make their day 10 times better. So like as a kid, I always knew what people went through. I heard stories from my friends. I've experienced it myself. But the training we receive gives you a little guide on how to deal with it. We as students, we know what it's like to stand in those shoes, to be sad, to be depressed, to go through these motions in life. But with the Hope Squad training, it helps us get through it ourselves, and to also help friends and colleagues.
Now, what do you do?
I think for me personally, in Hope Squad, it has been reiterated by multiple advisors and council members that we are there to help a person. We are not there to fix their depression or anxiety. We are there to help them get from point A to point B. And you can be a hand that holds, but you can't walk them through the life.
Have you seen?
In middle school, my first year in Hope Squad, I had a fellow Hope Squad member who was thinking of hurting herself, and I went up to her and I was like, hey, I know we are not great friends, we don't know each other that well, but I know you know this is not good, because she sits next to me and receives the same training. I was like, why don't we go someplace to talk? So we talked in the corner for a little bit, and I was like, why don't we ask our teacher to go visit our advisor? We went across the hall to our advisor. I told her what was going on. I left her with the advisor, and when we had our Hope Squad period, she was still there, and there was a little bit of smile on her face. She seemed a little bit more happier, and she just got better. She just seemed more happier and was not in that state where I found her in. I would say no. I think as a Hope Squad member, you may not have such a big population like you do at a high school, but you still have friends, you still have coworkers, you still have family. While you may not be able to save the whole world, mental illness is not just to strangers you don't know. It could be your mother or your father, your sister, your neighbor. So I will take that training with me, and I will watch my coworkers at my job. When I go to college, maybe a professor or a kid who sits next to me, or like my own family members. I want them to hear that hope is always there, and you don't need a doctorate or a PhD. You don't need anything special. All you need is empathy, compassion, and a lending hand.
Is there anything that you want to say about
Hope Squad has given me a passion in high school, and it's also taught me many life skills. It taught me how to work with people, public speaking, coordinating leadership, along with the mental health services we receive.
All right, very good. That's it. Thank you very much. You did a great job.